Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We're a few minutes early.
Good evening, sir.
We're a few minutes early. The meeting is also live on YouTube.
Yeah, boss.
All right. The meeting is also live on YouTube. All right, so I'm trying something new. Mr. Rowe?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm trying something new. So the meeting is live on YouTube. So those who are on can share it on the STETHS YouTube channel, STETHS Online. So persons, I think it should be saved. So when we're finished, those other parents who did not get to join us, they can go on YouTube and watch the meeting. I think I know it's live and I think it will be saved, right?
Okay.
So it's STETHS Online. STETHS Online, the YouTube channel. We're a minute before start time, so let's see.
Anyway. I'm mute.
Come on. Come on.
We should be starting around about now, but we only have 48 persons with us, including the teachers. So let me go for a couple more minutes and see how many more persons will join us. I don't want those who are here and they are using their data to be punished for those who are not here. So I won't wait too long, but I'll just go on for a couple more minutes to see how many more will join us. Okay, so those who are just joining us, we are actually on live, but we are waiting a few minutes. We are waiting a few minutes just to get some more persons, give some more persons the opportunity to join us. So we will start at 6:20, which is 5 minutes after our scheduled start time, and that's another 2 minutes from now.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Speaking on a conference call after the latest financial results were released, PTA explained that trainee television broadcasters would get
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's now 6:20. We will start our meeting. I'm going to ask that all those persons who are on, that you mute your devices so that we do not pick up your background. I am actually able to mute everyone, but sometimes persons join in and they unmute their phone, their device in trying to check and make sure they can be heard. But it causes a feedback when your mute is on, your mic is unmuted and your background is noisy. So just want to remind you to keep your mics muted unless you want to speak. So before we get into the meeting proper, there are just a few things I want to establish so that we can have this meeting in a very short time. I'm hoping that we can do an hour. The meeting is going to be recorded so that we can share the contents of the discussion with other members of the parent-teacher body. Just also to say that there will be opportunities for you to ask questions or make comments, but you can't all speak at the same time. So there's a feature where you're able to raise your hand by clicking on that button where it says participants. If you click on it and right click, you'll be able to raise your hand and you'll be acknowledged, after which you can unmute your mic and speak. We also have a chat room, so there's an icon called chat at the bottom. You can click on that chat icon and type something if you want to say something, since we may not all get the chance to speak. As I said, the meeting is also being streamed on YouTube, the STETHS Online YouTube channel. So it's STETHS Online. If you go to YouTube and search for STETHS Online, you will see the different videos there, and the PTA meeting will be listed as one of them. So you can go back and hear what was said. But most importantly, you can also inform those persons who are not here. If they are asking about what took place, just ask them to go to the YouTube channel and they can listen to the meeting in its entirety in their own time. We have with us members of staff, some members of staff, including the Vice Principal, Mrs. Soles. I think Mr. Kogel may join us later. We also have our grade coordinators, including Mr. Rowe, and we're going to ask him to start us off in the usual STETHS manner by offering a word of prayer. So Mr. Rowe, could you please go ahead?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope that we are keeping ourselves safe and doing all that is necessary so we don't contract or spread the virus. Having said that, we want to give thanks for life. In spite of what is going on, we have to be thankful because we can get to interact with others. We can get to do what we ought to do daily, even though we are being confined. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. And we are not worthy of such, but you still bestow them on us. Father, as we meet Parents Teacher Association, St. Elizabeth Technical High School, I ask that you go before us, Lord, and you pave that way. Clear our minds and allow us to think logically. Allow us to think, Lord, in such a way that whatever we say will be beneficial to all. Lord, we meet as parents, but ultimately it is the students. We plan, Lord, such that their welfare may be beneficial, that their welfare are taken care of. Bless us as we go forward. Bless the host and bless all those that will partake in this meeting. To your Son, I ask these mercies. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rowe. I know Mrs. Holness will get a chance to speak shortly, but I'm sure that she would also want to offer her word of welcome. And so I'm going to ask Mrs. Holness just to say a word of welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wellington. Good evening, parents, students. I know some students are on too, and I know some teachers are on. Good evening, everyone. It is such a pleasure to meet you, although we are not physically together, but we are, through technology, we can meet in this fashion, and it is always a pleasure to meet you in whichever fashion that we can. And we are so happy to know too that you are doing well, you're coping. Thank God he has kept us, and he's gonna even keep us even more to go through this crisis. And as we meet today, I trust that we will have a very productive meeting. It's all in the interest of our students, your children, and together we can sort everything out that we need to sort out for their future. We're really happy to have you, and we thank you for joining, and we pray that you continue to be safe. And later on, I will further speak to you. Thank you, Mr. Wellington.
Thank you, Mrs. Holness. So let me again join in welcoming you and saying how important this meeting is. We have 96 persons on the platform so far. I want to ask that those of you who have contacts with parents who may not be on, just remind them that this meeting is in progress. And if they are able to join us, we ask that they do. And also to say that if they don't have a Zoom app, they can join us on YouTube by going to STETHS Online. Just go into YouTube and search STETHS Online, and they will see the video being, the meeting being streamed live. And also just encourage other parents to go back to the video later if they were not able to join this meeting. We want to be very grateful that you can be here today. Though we are not physically touching each other, it is indeed a pleasure that we can share each other's company, and that we, as a state staff, we have gotten the opportunity to share with you. I wanted to have met with you last week, but because of the pending decisions that we knew were out there, I decided that I would put off the meeting until this week when we had more information. And we certainly have a lot to share with you today. You are aware of the developments as it regards the ministry's stance as to whether or not students would have been sitting their final exams. And it is now confirmed that the exams will be sat, that students will expect to sit their exams in late July. Also, as a consequence of that, we would have been told that with effect June 8th, we should resume classes for grade 11 and sixth form students. And therefore, we are in the process of making those arrangements and the preparations that would be necessary to ensure that the students' safety, health and safety is secured, and that we do everything to protect them while they are here. We also want to discuss today the role that you as parents, and for those students who are on, the role that you will all have to play to ensure that this is a success, and that when you return for classes, we will be able to make best use of your presence without putting you at risk. I want to start by just clearly establishing what our goals are as a school. And I'm going to start by saying that obviously we are aware of the changes that would have occurred because of the pandemic, and as it relates to school and your examination. So there are a number of examining bodies that students are involved in that Mrs. Holness will speak about later, but we have CXC, it's not just CXC, students are also involved in City and Guilds and NC TVET, and there are different arrangements for each of those that Mrs. Holness will speak of. The changes though are that the most significant changes would have to do with the CXC exams, which all students are doing and which all students are doing more of than any other examining body. And the significant changes that would have occurred would first of all be the fact that the format of the exam would now be changed so that students are only doing one paper, a multiple choice paper, and will be graded by the marks they get from that one paper along with their SBAs. As usual, if there's no SBA done, then you cannot get a grade for the exam. And it is in that context that I want to state clearly what our goal is as a school. We believe that the changes that have been made have placed the odds, I think, more clearly in favor of the students. Not only are they now only required to do one paper, which is a multiple choice paper, but they have been given an extra 3 months to complete their SBAs. The exams will be done almost 3 months later than it was initially planned for. We would have gotten to as far as March with our regular classes, which by then should have meant that we would have completed almost the entire syllabus. I would think at least somewhere between 90 and 95% of the syllabus should have been completed by all teachers at the beginning of March. I know that that may not be the case in all instances, but for the most part, we are doing something like 29 subjects at CXC. I am sure that more than 20 out of those subjects, the teachers would have completed or gotten to 90% of coverage of the syllabus. We also, let me just mute those persons in the background. We also should have completed the SBAs in March when school closed. The SBA should basically have been completed. So any time that was required after March 12th when school closed was really extra time. And we would have already gone 2 months, with April, May. We would have already gone 2 extra months in terms of time for completion of the SBA. There are a number of subject areas that those 2 months would not have helped because you needed to have been in school to complete those SBAs. But for the most part, most of the subjects, you could have been at home working on them. So in that context, I am suggesting that while there may be some disadvantages that students are facing, the truth is that the odds are more in favor of us doing well than it was at the start of March when you should have completed your SBAs and hadn't, and when you should have been fully prepared for your exams in May and weren't. So having gotten 3 extra months, it comes down to how much work we have put in to make use of those extra time, right? And that is where I'm concerned right now. Right now, we are still, even though so much time has passed, we are still 2 months away from the exams. We still have a couple weeks that we can use to finish the SBAs. And I'm saying to you parents and students who are online, this is an opportunity. We still have an opportunity to make use of all the extra time by, first of all, completing all our SBAs for every subject that we are registered for. And secondly, doing all the extra work to prepare to sit that exam in July. And so our target as a school is to try and ensure that every single student that is registered for every single subject gets a grade 1, 2, or 3 at the minimum. And we are not going to be happy. We're not going to be satisfied if after 5 years at STETHS or 4 years at STETHS, after 2 years of doing the subject, we are going to be looking around for excuses as to why we couldn't do an SBA that we got from September or from grade 10, why we couldn't do an SBA so that we have a grade to go into the exam with, a satisfactory grade, right? Or we couldn't prepare to sit a multiple choice exam that is administered 3 months after its scheduled date. So I'm saying to you as parents and students that are on the call, please start hiding from me, because you are going to have to be held accountable for the result that you get. And we are going to be putting in measures to ensure that we do our part to help you, to help us to all meet our objectives, right? There is a little saying that you cannot make up for last time, and planning to do the exam in January or next June is actually throwing away 6 months or a year out of your life. So we're not going to be accepting any excuses as to why students cannot do well. We know that people have challenges. We know that there are students who are going to face challenges, but it is our responsibility as parents and teachers and school to help them to overcome those challenges. And that is what we intend to do. We intend to do our part in allowing those challenges to be overcome. But you will also have to play your part by, at the very minimum, allowing us to know what those challenges are so that we can make the attempt to overcome those challenges. Having said all of that, Mrs. Holness, the vice principal, is the person who is the main person who has responsibility for external exams. So everything that I am able to say, Mrs. Holness would have been fully okay with it. And as a matter of fact, she is the person who sometimes have to tell me what is happening. And so for today's meeting, we're going to spend a lot of time hearing from Mrs. Holness. And I will simply reinforce what she has said and also support her in whatever stance she's taking as it regards to exams. When Mrs. Holness finished speaking about the exams, I will speak about the arrangements that we will put in place for students to attend classes when we resume, and what the expectations, what we will have in place, what we expect you to hold us responsible for, and what we will be holding you as parents and students responsible for, to ensure that we have a safe environment in which our teachers can function and in which our students can function and remain safe. So I'm going to turn over to Mrs. Holness, who will carry us through some of the issues as it relates to examinations and SBAs. Mrs. Holness.
All right, thank you so very much, Mr. Wellington. And after such a passionate introduction, I will just bring you up to speed as to I'm sure you would have heard parents that the format for the exam. So it will only for CSEC and CAPE, the students will do only the multiple choice paper 1, but for H&S Bio, which does not have the SBA component, the students will have to do paper 2. All right. So HS Bio is the only paper that they will write the paper 2 exam for. In addition to HS Bio paper 2, the students will have to do Spanish orals. So they will have to do the orals in Spanish along with the multiple choice paper. And for those students who are doing both English and English B, they will do a common paper 1. So they will just do paper 1 paper 1 for both subjects.
So they do one paper and pass 2 exams.
Right. So it's exactly.
Right.
So it's English A and English B, which we know as English language and English literature. All right. So parents, the teachers are in the process now of entering the grades online for CSEC, and shortly they will do the same for CAPE. We have had an extension in the deadline for submitting the grades, and we are giving our students the best opportunity to submit the best SBA possible. And we have been preaching this from the very beginning, that without the SBA's parents, the students don't have a chance. And it is even more so this year, because the only 2 pieces of assessments will be the SBA and the multiple choice paper. So we are desperately now seeking your help, parents, to ensure that all the SBA is coming. The teachers have been making contact with the students, and some students have still not come forward with their SBAs. So when I'm through, I'm not sure if I have the time to call out all the names, but believe me, parents, it's quite a few students have not yet handed in their SBAs. And the teachers would have been working with the students for the SBAs for the past maybe 8-10 months, because some of them started from grade 10. And so at this point, we know that there are some situations where there might have been some issues and some, challenges and delays and so on for whatever reason. But for the most part, as Mr. Wellington said, the SBA should have way advanced. So at this stage, we shouldn't have so many students still not finished. And the teachers have allowed the students to email their work in, so they didn't have to come in to hand it in physically, because we know we don't want to have the contact, but they could also have emailed in. So we are going to ask the parents just to ask your child at home to see whether or not they have completed all the SBAs. And we know that there are challenges. We're not going to say that there are no challenges, we know, but we are accommodating the SBAs, all right? And the same for CAPE. CAPE is just paper one and the multiple choice, okay? You would have heard too that the proposal from CSEC is that students should do the be tested online, meaning they will come at school and sit before the computer and do their exams. But as an administration, we have our limitations where that is concerned, and so we will, choose the best method possible for our students. So they have a choice to do the paper base. So we don't want anybody to worry. We will ensure that our students get the best opportunity, because they have the option to also sit the paper-based exam. All right. Now for City and Guilds, normally it would have been only a multiple choice paper, but this year, based on what's happening in the world, and City and Guilds is a English-based exam, they have taken the decision that the students will not sit the exam this year, physically sit the exam, but the teachers will be asked to give a calculated grade or a predictive grade based on the students' work that they have done over the past year or so. So the work that your child has done will play a very important part in the grade that your child will get. So they won't sit an exam. And we are not overly concerned about that, because we know that our students normally do well at City and Guilds anyway. So, they should be fine for City and Guilds. But nevertheless, the record that we have on the students' performance will play a part in the grade that each child gets. So for City and Guilds, that's for City and Guilds. And our students are doing City and Guilds, English, math, customer service. They are also doing some of the skill areas. So they do motor vehicle repairs, they do welding. This year they'll be doing welding and food preparation, and I think plumbing and electrical, right? So for those practical areas though, the students need to produce evidence of the work that has been done. So normally they would have to have a portfolio, and they will still need to have that portfolio as the evidence for the practical subjects. The math and English and the customer service will be fine, but the skill areas, they need the evidence of the students' work. So NC-TVET, as you know, a lot of our students do NC-TVET because of the skills that we teach, that we offer, and they will not do the practical exam this year, but they will do their assessment online. We are going into a meeting tomorrow where that is concerned, so we'll have more details as to how the assessment will be done, but we know that it will be an online assessment for NC-TVET. And in contrast to CSEC and CAPE, where we have a lot of students doing one particular subject, If we have to do the online, I think we have the capacity to do so without an issue for the NC to vet. All right, so that's it in terms of the format and so on for the different exams and what the expectations are. And parents, as I said before, our teachers have been reaching out to the students. Mr. Wellington, do I have time to call any names?
You have as much time as you need, as long as the parents
Okay,
are ready
great.
to listen.
Great, because parents, the normal circumstances, we would reach out to you and so on. But we have been trying to reach out to you. I mean, teachers have been reaching out, other persons have been calling. I have been doing the same. But so because you're all together now, I just want to let you know of some of the students who are still not finished with it, still have not submitted the SBAs. So if you bear with me, let me just quickly read out some names. And if you're online, please just make contact with the teacher and let us know what's happening. And the SBAs must be submitted. All right, I'm going to start with the sciences. For bio, Geraldine Ward, Joshua Miller, Aishamar Petgrave, Ashley Williams, Alexia Wine. For physics, Gwyneth Barracks, Shamar Clark, Andre Edwards, Connor Gale, Deirdre Gillespie, Shamar McLeish, Kamaria Neal, Jordan Royal, Christopher Roy. Another physics class, Britannia Blackwood, Joshua Miller, Alisa Nemard, Jermaine Stevens, Janari Rowe, Javari Johnson, and Tina Parchment. And for chemistry, Connor Gale. For English, quite a bit. Ricardo Barnaby, Ramesh Daly, Tavares Clark,
Is it Ramesh Daly, Mrs. Wallace?
Ramesh Daly, yes. Yes.
That's Mrs. Wellington's nephew.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, Tavares Clark, Shaheem Joseph, Ravir Thousand, Kendane Smith, Javari Watson, Alexia Yuan, Nia Pringle, Chanel Walters, Kasif Dallas, Nikayla Gooden, Shanice Lewis, Alisa Morgan, Hareen Williams, Tina Parchment, Ashani Seaton, Alisa Nemard. Family and Resource Management, sorry. Damelia Allen, Anna K. Arnold, Sashay Salmon, Ashanti Sanderson, Mizani Williams. For history, Neomar Stewart, Dravian Reed, Shaheem Joseph again, Shanique Hamilton. That's for CSEC. And I have some more for Cape, Kiana Levy, and Gabriel Nation for foods, and for environment and science, Danaria Watson and Princess Ford. For
environmental science?
Yes, sir. And for electrical, CSEC Electrical, Sean Brown, Shanier Cooper, Majay Francis, Isaac Graham, Javari Johnson, Shamar McLeish, Dwayne Peart, and Janari Rowe. And there are some students who have not yet submitted for mechanical technology, but we are aware of the situation with them. So those students, Mr. Wellington will speak to that. Those students will be able to come in and complete their work. All right. I don't think this is by no means exhaustive, but it's quite a lot. And parents, we ask for your help. This is 5 years of work, 5 years of investment you have put in your child. And so I'm sure at the beginning of grade 7, you are looking forward to having your child finish at grade 11 with some subjects which will take them into the future. They now have their future in their hands with this exam, as you know. And so we ask that you nudge your child, no, you go home and say, listen, where is the SBA for X, Y, and Z? And ensure that the SBAs are handed it. It would be a shame for so many students to give up this opportunity that they have now to take themselves into the future with some passes in CSEC. At least it's the foundation for where they want to go in life. So we ask parents that you work with us, and I'm sure many of you would want to know that your students your child do his or her best. And without the SBAs, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense a child even turn up for the exam, because once a teacher enters no SBA, it's an automatic ungraded. All right. And we know they have been well advanced, and we ask if there are challenges, just reach out to the teacher, right? Reach out to the teachers. And if you're not getting through, just reach out to us as administrators, reach out to the grade coordinators, and we'll try and intervene and get the work and get the job done. We know that there are some students who really have some challenges, in one form or the other, but we are here to help. We do not want any child to be left behind at all. All right. So parents, please work with us as you have always been working with us. And we are happy that we have had so many, and we ask that you share with those parents, if you know the names that have been called, and if you know your child has handed in the SBA, if the name was called, and I mean, just ignore it. But this is the last list I got up to today. So we ask that you act on this now, please. It's a final call for the SBAs to come in, and just let us know if there are any issues that we are not aware of yet that you want us to have addressed. All right. So thank you so very much, and may God bless you as we work together for our children that will make this Jamaica a better place. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Soles. And you did say it is the final call for SBAs. It is the final call, but we are going to go beyond that final call. And there are a number of things related to SBAs. We know that there are issues. Those names that were called, along with, I'm sure there are a few others. As I said, we're doing about 29 subjects, and I think there were about 6 or 7 subjects that Mrs. Holness named outstanding SBAs for. I'm sure that there are others that are outstanding. We are going to make an effort during the course of next week to find every single home where those children come from, to find out why the SBAs have not been completed. All right, so we will not accept any excuse outside of a child being sick and disabled and not able to complete the SBAs. We are not going to accept any excuse at all as to why the SBAs have not been completed. Mrs. Holness, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. While I was speaking, there are some teachers who just gave me some more names. For Caribbean Studies, Ashanti Japa, Jashawn Parker, Joseph Simple, Kishawn Smallings, Rajay Simpson, Brandon Morris. And for Social Studies again, Nia Pringle.
Again.
Shaniki Rowe. Yes, Nia Pringle. Shaniki Rowe. Shaniki Rowe was in the hospital, but she's out now, and we offer our sympathies to her and trust that she's feeling better. And the teacher stands ready to help you, Shaniki. All right. I have a question here about Mr. Wellington. We speak to the issue of what we will do in terms of our students. All right. I'm learning that Shaniki Hamilton doesn't do history. All right. It must be not. Maybe social studies then, if it's not history. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Wallace. All right. So Mrs. Wallace did mention that there are some SBAs that there would have been issues with because the SBAs needed the presence of the teacher and probably resources at school for them to be completed. So things like mechanical technology, visual arts, theater arts, and a couple other subjects, I think, the students really would have needed to be at school to complete the assignment, the projects, or whatever they were doing. So we are going to make arrangement for those students to come in on the 1st of June. Well, starting the 1st of June to complete those SBAs. I will be having a discussion with the respective teachers, and we will set up a schedule that we will make public. We will send out the schedule for those students to come in and complete their SBAs. So there are orals to be done for communication studies and English language. There are practical pieces to be done for visual arts, theater arts. What else? Help me out, Mrs. Solis.
PE
as well. Yes.
PE, and the industrial tech areas.
The industrial tech area. So that's building.
Cape, yes, building, electrical, mechanical, and Cape chemistry and Cape physics.
Right. So those students will get the chance, because I think those, for the most part, they needed to be in a classroom setting to complete those SBAs, or in a field setting meaning work area. So we will make the arrangements for them to come in during that first week of June. And by the way, please remember, everything that we say and every plan that we are making is contingent on how safe it is for these things to be done. So while we're talking, we're not ignoring the fact that there may be safety issues, right? Everything that we are saying is contingent on it being safe to do so. All right, so for the SBAs, we're going to ask those students to come in during that first week of June to complete those practical pieces. As I said earlier on, the government has approved and requested that we resume classes on June 8th for 3 weeks for those students who are sitting exams. We are going to be having the students come in for classes during that time. I am working on a protocol that is a set of rules that everybody will have to follow in order to make sure that the process can be a safe one. And I have not met with the general teaching staff yet. So while we have something on paper, we need to go through it and make the necessary amendments. And then we will share it with you by tomorrow evening, so that we will have 2 weeks to work on what is it we need to do to ensure that the school environment is safe for students to come in and attend classes. But just generally, some of the things I want to share. First of all, we will have a revised timetable. So it will not be the normal timetable that students had before COVID that they will come into. So what we will do is to make the timetable so that students only come in when they have classes for the subjects that they are doing at CXC. So if you're only doing 4 subjects or 5 subjects, you're only going to be coming in for those when those subjects are done. And we will ask that you come in, for the most part, with the way the timetable is made up, persons are expected to come in for classes at 8:30, but they may be finished with their classes by 11 o'clock or by 12:30, or they may have to go up to 3:30. We are going to ask that they leave when their class is finished. So parents will have to understand now that monitoring is going to be very important, because they need to know what time their child's class would finish, and therefore what type of arrangement is to be made for them to get home. We're doing that because we don't want unnecessary gatherings on campus, and we also don't want the students to have to travel home in peak periods, meaning that everybody's in the taxi or everybody's in the bus at the same time. We are going to share the timetable via WhatsApp, on our Facebook pages and so on, so that parents have access to the timetables and know when their children should be at school and when they should be at home. While we are waiting for those classes, I'm going to ask that you do a sort of self-quarantine. I'm not saying that you must all get the children locked up, but we have roughly 2.5 weeks left before those classes resume. Please ensure that the children are being very careful with where they go, what they do, how they socialize, so that if there's a risk involved in coming to school, those risks are minimized. We also want to make it clear that no child should come to school if they are ill. Right? If they are ill, they should not come to class. Just let us know that they are ill and let us try and make arrangements for them to benefit in some way from what is happening at school. But they should not come to school if they are ill. Also, we know that we have children with different types of illnesses which make them high-risk students or high-risk patients. Obviously, we don't want them to be exposed. So people who trouble with asthma, for example, it may be a little bit risky, may not be too bad, but it is a respiratory problem. So we have to be careful with them. There are other children who have other issues that some of them we are aware of, some we are not. But again, the individual has to take responsibility for their own safety. And therefore we're asking parents to ensure that in those cases, if you are not sure, just run it by us. Let us know so that we can seek advice as to how risky it is for those students to turn out. In terms of, obviously, we're going to expect students to wear a mask. But the wearing of masks is a very ticklish thing. It protects you. There's no doubt about it. But we have to be careful how we use the mask as well, because you know that the prolonged use of masks may create problems themselves. So all of those things will be put in writing and trying to explain what are some of the things that you need to do in order to be properly prepared for school. We are going to also ask that parents ensure that children walk with their little hand sanitizers and so on. We will be fixing up the campus to make sure that students can keep their hands and faces properly protected through sanitization and so on. But of course, our fifth form between fifth and sixth, between fifth and sixth form for us at STETHS, we have approximately 520 students. Right? Just fifth and sixth form for us is approximately 560 students. We have 100 and odd teachers, and we have over 50 other workers. So between teachers and workers, it is possible for almost 700 people to be at STETHS, although first to fourth form will not be here. So we have to be very careful how we manage our environment during the period, and therefore we want to ensure that that they do their part in keeping the surroundings safe. All right. I think we'd have done a lot of talking. I don't know if there any question, Mrs. Wallace, you want to go ahead again? Unmute your mic.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just got an update. Thank you. Update for some more names. For Com Studies, Princess Ford, to Wayne Williams, Denari Watson, Kishmar Namard, Antonio Biggs, Deron Stamp. All right. So that's
Com Studies.
Com Studies. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, good. All right. Parents, I'm opening up the floor. I'm opening up the floor for you to ask questions, make comments, or seek clarification. As I said, you can raise your hand, but if you don't know how to, just unmute your mic and let me just say something. Let me realize that you want to speak. I'm sure there are questions or concerns that you would like to raise. The students who are online as well. All right, Ms. Stedman, let me unmute your mic.
Yes, good night, everyone.
Good night, madam.
Yes, I want to know, Mr. Wellington and Mrs. Holness and the rest of teachers, if there's an issue with computers and the students have their personal laptop, would they be allowed to sit the exam using their personal PC?
All right, I can answer, but I'll allow Mrs. Holness to.
Okay, you're right, Ms. Stedman. Good evening. There is a thing called Safe Exam Browser that CXC has asked of us to install on our machines, right? So if a student is going to use his or her laptop, then that program has, or software has to be installed on his or her laptop, because when a child is doing an exam online, the child cannot be allowed to be able to go on any other browser, right? So when you're doing an exam, is that you're locked into just the exam and nothing else. So that would have to happen, all right? But as I said, you'll be informed whether or not we will ask for you to do that, all right?
All right. So just to,
Okay, thank you.
thanks, Mr. Stedman. Just to reinforce, the option is not that students will be doing the exams online. There is going to be the option for them to either do, well, for the school to either offer the exam as a paper-based exam or an online exam. For the time being, in most cases, especially for the larger exams, it will be paper-based. All right. Shemar has his hand up.
Mr. Wellington, good evening.
Good
As it relates to cleaning and sanitizing of the classrooms and the bathrooms, I heard you said something, but I wasn't sure what you said about that.
All right, I said that we would be making the necessary arrangements to ensure that the place is properly sanitized and healthy and safe for them. So the thing that we need to do, we will be making the attempt to do it. And so, but of course, we want to reiterate, we want to emphasize that persons have to take their personal protection seriously, and we can't be 100% foolproof. If persons within the White House, at the US, around the president and vice president is catching this thing, it says, I heard yesterday a footballer in England was tested positive, and he says he cannot understand how he has tested positive, because he only comes out of his house to jog. So we have to make the effort to protect ourselves as well. But we are committed as a school to doing the things to ensure that the students are protected, but they have to play their part. So for example, they need to understand that they can't be bungling in groups of 3 and 4 with their friends, talking all over the place, and they don't know who is positive and who is not. All right.
So you were saying for the children who are asthmatic, what kind of arrangements would be made for those children?
Well, we are saying that they are at a higher risk, and therefore a decision has to be made by them, by their parents, as to whether they will be able to come to school. They may not be able to, especially depending on how severe a case of asthma they normally have. So that is a risk that they have to decide. The parents will have to decide if they are going to take, right? Because remember, now, in their case, it is they who are at risk, not the person beside them. All right?
So the parents can decide then, even if the child is not asthmatic, whether they want to send their children to school during this time?
Well, that has always been the case, whether there's COVID or not, you have to make that decision. So I would suggest that, yes, you can make that decision, but I am also suggesting to you that we should not make decisions born out of ignorance, because all of us are talking about this trying to be safe. If we recognize that we don't want people to go out, then some of us, we shouldn't have anything in our kitchens, because the shopkeeper shouldn't open his shop, or the taxi man shouldn't drive out. It's just a matter of us trying to make the effort to do what we can do to protect ourselves. But this thing, it is something that, to be honest, it can be around for 6 months. It could be around for 6 weeks. It could be around for the next 3 years. Right? And we can't stop living. What we have to do is to accept what is now become known as the new norms and how we treat with them. All right. So whatever decision we are making, please make that it is an informed decision. All right. But yes, you have the option of making that choice. All right. There's a question in the chat room before Ms. Collins. Let me just ask a similar question. A parent is asking if a parent is diabetic and remains at home. Let me just read it. As a parent who is diabetic and remains at home, I am concerned as to how the school plan on continuing social distancing as CSEC and CAPE students resume studies come June. So we would have spoken to, would have addressed that concern. And again, we speak to the fact that the school really has no control over the students when they leave through the school gate. So we can do all we can, but they end up in a taxi with 5 people at the back if they don't make the right choices, or they end in a coaster with 35 persons. So it's all about choices, about awareness to begin with, choices, making the correct choices to ensure that we protect not just ourselves, but those around us. All right, Ms. Collins.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Wellington. My question is, will there be any change, for example, at lunchtime or at break time for the students? Will there be any change in the classroom settings in terms of the number of students in the classroom, or it will just be the same?
No, there will be changes. There will be changes. There will be a number of changes as to how we function, including number of students in the classroom, the actual rooms that we will use based on size of classes, the lunch period, how we will serve lunch, and all of that. We will make those adjustments as I've committed to already. We actually, to be honest, I want to tell you, we have a 3-page document already. We actually, the document was done because the ministry had asked me for my opinion. So I actually did a document and sent to them. They had a meeting earlier this week, so that I think they sent out a document today, which would have reflected a lot of what I had sent to them. So we are putting our plans in place, but we want to fine tune it before we send it out. But those things will be addressed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Ms. Wallace, your hand is still up, or it was up from the?
Yes, sir, it's up. I just want to suggest, as Mrs. Collins mentioned about lunchroom, that, if you could, as parents, give your child, a sandwich or 2, give them a snack, a sandwich to take with them to avoid them having to go to the tuck shop or the canteen. You have that choice. Just let you know that you have that choice, and it would be advisable too to cut down on the crowd. Thank you.
Ms. Collins, your hand went back up, or it didn't come down?
No, sir, sorry.
All right, let me just lower it for you. All right, anybody else wants to raise a question? Mrs. Wallace, you want to speak to the arrangement we students who are doing evening school?
Okay, well, I think for evening school, we're going to have to make, we're going to have to meet them too, because I know that there are outstanding work still left to be done and classes still to complete. So we will have to make the necessary arrangements, maybe as of when the students resume, maybe the second week in June, then we could, based on how things work out for the first week, then we will try and accommodate the evening school students. All right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, 2 persons' hands are up, but just to answer a question from the chat room, this meeting is actually for 5th and 6th formers. So whatever we say apply to 6th formers as well. So the 6th formers will resume on June 8th, like the others. And the same, we have not said anything that applies to 5th form only, apart from the SBAs that we spoke specific to subjects. All right. For students who are unable to be at school physically, how much of what is being covered would they be able to access remotely? We will try and make that that arrangement as well in terms of remotely. So for maths and English in particular, we're going to be using the auditorium. So we'll probably try and stream those classes. We'll probably try and stream those classes while they are going on, right? And where possible, I'll see how many classes we can actually stream online. Right, Mrs. Wallace? All right. Who was first?
For
now?
sure, we could try and do that.
Yeah, we'll try. Definitely the ones that we'll have in the auditorium, which would be maths and English in particular. All right.
Yes. I'm sorry, could I just, sorry, Mr. Wellington.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mrs. Wallace.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
not hearing.
For those, you hearing me now? The
Yeah, no,
com
we are.
study student, there are some students for com studies who have not yet done their oral. Those students would need to come in along with the grade 11 students in the
That first
in
week.
the first week, yes, along with those who are doing CAPE chemistry and CAPE physics.
Mm, mm.
Yes.
All right, good. I remember if you are shy and don't want to ask questions, you can type the questions in the chat room. Everybody can text on WhatsApp, so you can go to the chat and type your questions. Lynn, I say Lynn Tanya. Don't know if that's the name.
Good
Her
evening,
hand
this
is
is
up.
Lincoln's mommy.
Or Lynn Tanya's mommy.
Yes, good evening. Will students be wearing their uniforms?
Yes. And I'm
Okay.
hoping that everybody can still fit in their uniforms. and we expect them to be properly groomed. All right. So we expect them to be able to fit in their uniforms. And please, I know that the young men have tall hairs, but try and get them fixed up for class for school. All right.
Thank
Johnny?
you.
Yeah. I still answer the question about barbers being inaccessible. Miss Lewis.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have not heard from my law teacher,
Mhm.
and read the SBA. I have not heard from her.
That's Mrs. Martin.
Yes, sir.
Is Mrs. Martin in the meeting? Mrs. Wallace, just make a note of that and we'll follow up. All right.
Right. But
Is it that it was?
sorry.
Right, Mrs. Wallace.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know Mrs. Martin has been collecting SBAs for law. So I'm not sure. Have you had any classes with Dejane?
Miss, repeat?
Have you had any classes for law?
Yes.
Okay, but I know she has
And
been
you have
collecting
handed
SBAs.
You have handed in your SBA?
Yes, I sent it in March, email.
Oh, so you're just wondering how you haven't gotten any feedback?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was the first draft.
Well,
Oh,
maybe she doesn't
okay.
know that it is the first draft. So you have another draft. You have another draft ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you need to reach out to her. All right.
Mr. Winter,
All right,
may I just backtrack a little?
Remember, it's exam we're talking about now, so you can do anything you want to do, my dear.
All
let me know
right.
that.
So yeah, man, my hand is raised.
Yes.
A parent asked about uniform. Yes, I want to add for the exam, they must wear their uniforms and they must have their IDs.
Yes.
IDs must have their IDs. So if they have lost their IDs, make sure when they get back in June that they check with Mr. Reed, who will take another ID for them. The IDs must have their IDs for exam. All right. And parents, I'm going to ask you from now. I'm sure we'll meet again, right, Mr. Winton?
Yes, man.
Yes, we meet again. All right. But the IDs
We'll meet again before they come back.
Right. So the IDs is a must. All right, guys. Please make sure you have that. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much for this. Any other question, Maureen? Maureen Grant, I see your mic is open. Is it that you want to speak? No? All right. Any other questions, comments? Let me just check if there's anything. Somebody's asked, let me just answer. The person who asked about radiation, I'll answer it. I'll type my answer to your question. All right, any other question? Teachers, who are the teachers we have? Mr. Rowe, who else do we have in the group? Just want to remind you, students in particular, I know you have contacts for your friends. I'm coming back to you, Mrs. Wallace, if your hand is still up. Remind them that they can get the contents of the meeting from the YouTube channel. So the information that we are sharing now, they just need to go back and watch the video the YouTube channel video so that they can get the information that I would have shared with you that they may have missed. So please share that information with the rest of your students, fellow students. All right. Mrs. Wallace, did you have your hand up still or you took lowered it? You lowered it. Mr. Rowe, anything, sir, from you?
Just to add, sir, just to add that, you know, I just want the parents to sort of put out the extra effort with their children such that we can get all the SBAs. And as Mrs. Wallace would have said, without the SBA, you know, they have no chance whatsoever.
Okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace, there are concerns raised in the chat room with Mr. Rowe, Pool A maths class, and Mrs. Martin's office admin evening class. Could you please make a note of it for me and address it with both teachers? Don't know if you
Okay,
are seeing
sir.
it. Are you seeing
I'm
the
not
note?
seeing it.
All right, I'll
No,
share
I'm
it
not
with you.
seeing it.
I'll share it with you, right?
All right. Okay, will do.
Mhm. All right.
Sir, excuse me, good evening. Did I hear you mention something about office admin even school?
Yes.
What about it, sir?
A parent, let me tell you what the parent is saying. The SBAs, let me just go back to it. Any other questions, concerns? Any other questions? I'll soon come to you, Ms. Martin, and tell you what the message is.
Okay, sir.
And there's also concern, again, another student raising concern, Mrs. Wallace, read the law classes. Somebody.
Mr. Wellington, good evening.
Yes, please identify yourself.
I'm Onika Grant, Jaheem's Beckford mom.
Yes.
In terms of his physics SBA, I dropped the book off, I think it was in late March. So, but he hasn't gotten a chance to do the correction, so I don't know if it has already been marked and submitted. Because no lot of students haven't submitted theirs as yet, so I want to know if he's going to get a chance to do whatever he has to do on it and submit it.
Has he spoken with the teacher?
No, but he got a grade. He already got a grade, but I'm saying if there's a chance for them to do some corrections, will Mr. Nash actually give them a chance to do it?
All right, so let me just mute back everybody. So Mrs. Martin, you can address it. It has to do with grades, but let me just speak generally on grades. A number of students and parents, both day school and evening school, are now asking about getting back SBAs to improve on their grades. Obviously, it has become more important for good grades, for students to get good grades for their SBAs, right? Now, I know that the normal procedure, I'm not saying that that is the case with all teachers, because of course, there are times when teachers do things that are not in keeping with the norm and we're not aware of it. But I know that the normal procedures for SBAs is that the questions are given or the project is given and students are told that they should either be submitting in sections so that teachers can review and give them back, or they should provide a first draft at a particular time so that teacher can review and give them back. Now, many of our students, they refuse from following the procedures required. They don't hand in the SBA section by section. And it's a matter of fact, Mrs. Wallace will tell you, we have had SBAs where the only thing that the child did for themselves was to change somebody's name to their name, right? So the first time the teacher is seeing it is when the teacher gets a completed SBA with somebody's name on it, with their name on it, but the teacher knows that the content was not provided by that particular student. So now it has become more important and more persons are concerned about the grade they have gotten, right? No, that is all good and well. And I have no problem with students wanting to get the best possible grade to go into the exam. But we have to recognize that there are deadlines that teachers have to deal with. And if we give back everybody their SBA at this late stage for them to do over to make amendments, then the first thing will happen is that their grades will not be accepted, so they wouldn't get no grade at all, right? So I'm just putting that out there as a general statement, not speaking to any of the specific cases that are mentioned, because I don't teach the students. So I don't know what the specific case is with each child, right? But I'm just saying that it's a pity that, well, a lot of you whose child is in grade 11, the same thing will happen in sixth form if they come back to sixth form. But I'm just putting that out there, right? So so Mrs. Wallace, did you want to say something?
No, I didn't have my hand up.
Right. So Mrs. Martin, I will prefer if Mrs. Wallace speaks to you about, because the personal inbox was a private message to me. Unless the person wants to speak publicly, then they can go ahead. But the question the person raised, an evening school office admin and the child not getting back their SBA to improve on it. That's the concern raised by the person. For Mr. Rowe, the concern that the child has is that work is being posted, but they are not getting back feedback. All right, and we have the issues raised regarding Mrs. Martin's law class. All right, so those are the issues relating to teachers. If any of the teacher is here, if there are any of them here, they could respond if they so desire.
That's Max Rowe, sir.
Math, yes, not agri row, the mathematics row. Yes,
Sir,
yes, Mr. Joman.
read for the parent that spoke.
And Mrs. Joman is head of the science department and the biology teacher, one of the biology teachers.
Yes, sir, but I was just responding to the parent who asked where the physics is concerned. At this late stage, I don't think Mr. Nash should be returning a book, because throughout the 2 years of marking, sometimes he would give back the book for them to do corrections. And so now that this is the final acceptance, I doubt that he would be doing that. And also because of the students who are hanging out there, not handing in. It's a difficult one to be remarking when you're still getting books to mark to put onto the system.
And I'm happy you pointed out the fact, Mrs. Joman, that for the science in particular, is 2 solid years worth of SBA they're doing. They started the SBA from grade 10. So there was plenty opportunities for them to be getting feedback and correcting and doing the things correctly. We have repeatedly said to the students that every single student has the opportunity to go into their final exams with full marks for the SBAs. But of course, we speak and sometimes it falls on deaf ears. All right, let me go to Mrs. Holness and then Ms. Stedman. Some persons had their hand up and then lowered it, but Mrs. Holness first.
Okay. Yes, sir. Mrs. I want to just let the parents know, and for those students who are on too, that all SBAs will be checked by CXC this year. All SBAs. So what we have to do this year is to all the SBAs that we get, like social studies, POB, all of them we have to send to CXC, right? And for those that the lab books and so on, and the practical areas, everything will be checked at the school, right? So we cannot take the chance now of handing back lab books. And you know, the challenge we have had so many challenges to get back the work from students sometimes. So all pieces of SBAs will be audited and will be checked. So we have to have everything at the school to present to these auditors when they come, and moderators. All right, parents, so we want you to understand that too, that if a child started the work and has not completed, the teacher cannot give the child the work unless the teacher has the lab book or the folder, whatever the SBA was done in at school, because we have to give account for every grade that we put on the system.
Just want to make the point, Mrs. Holness, that for day school alone, just for grade 11, not sixth form, not even school, we have 280 students. Those 280 students, they are registered for 1,875 sittings, an average of roughly 7 subjects per student. And as you know now, every subject apart from HS Bio, and what else, Mrs. Holness, have SBAs?
Spanish.
And Spanish. Every subject, right? And let me tell you, only For Spanish, only 16 students doing Spanish, right? And only 66 doing HS Bio. So out of the 1,800 and odd, right? We have 1,845 minus 82. So 1,760 odd SBAs. The teachers have to mark, enter the grades, and then now upload all the pieces of work that was done. So we can't give the students a year, 2 years, 6 months to do the SBAs, and then we are expected to do all of this in 2 weeks, right? We want them to, and we want to ensure that they pass the exam. That is how we started out the meeting, and I want to emphasize that it is in our best interest for these students to pass the exams, because at the end of the day, it is a reflection of the work that we do, and having done all the hard work, no teacher wants any child to not pass the exam. Because to begin with, Mr. Wellington, I'm going to be the first one to ask them what is it they're getting paid for. So, but we have to draw a line somewhere, right? Mrs. Wallace, you finish. Can we move to Ms. Stedman?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks.
Stedman.
Yes, sir. On the matter of SBAs, and from the beginning of 10th grade, we were told as parents that the SBAs would be due. The first draft should be in by February, and the final draft should be in by March. As parents, we need to be proactive. I, at some stage, had to be up with my son until about 1 o'clock in the morning to force him to make sure that SBAs are done. By the end of March, all his SBAs were in. And now he has gotten back feedback. Most of them are graded. So at this time, I think the teachers are more than lenient to be allowing the students extra time to do these SBAs, which are past overdue.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, right? And yes, that is true. As a matter of fact, from the end in grade 9, we have been telling them about SBAs. When they come into grade 10, we're telling them about SBAs, right? So we, as parents, as you said, you actually had to be monitoring them to get the best out of them, because the truth is, it can be overwhelming. When you have 6 or 7 SBAs to do, if you have not managed your time well, it is not very difficult to see you throwing up your hands and say, boy, anything we get for this or so, right? And you just hand it in like that. But there's a consequence to that, right? Let me just go back to the chat room and answer a few questions that are there. What will be the format for 11th graders to enter 6th form? So first of all, as is customary, your acceptance to 6th form will also largely depend on what you would have done before your exam results come. So it is not your exam results alone that will determine whether or not you come back to 6th form. As it is now, the results are not likely to be out until close to the end of September. We know our students well, and therefore we will be looking at shortlisting our possible 6th formers before the results come. So when the results come, it will only be a matter of verifying that they are qualified for 6th form. And we are sure there are going to be instances where we will be lenient to say that the student would have performed exceptionally well up to 5th form, and something went wrong based on all the circumstances, and therefore we'll look at accepting them back to complete their studies. But as I said before, your track record up to now is what is going to determine whether or not you come back to 6th form, along with the passes, which will determine which subjects you are able to do. All right. Next question. Good evening. Can you differ for the following sitting if you're a private student without being penalized, meaning without you repaying? No. The arrangement with CXC is that once you miss the exam, if you want to do it again, you will have to pay for it, whether you're a private or public candidate. So for example, the discussion that the government was in, the government at one point was making the suggestion that the students could do the exam in January, and the CXC made it clear that if the government told the students that they could not do it in July and would do it in January, then the exams would have to be paid for by somebody at that time. All right, so no, you would not be able to. Next question. Evening school English SBA, should we drop it off by the main office or what? Mrs. Holness, English evening school SBA.
Yes, sir. Yes, we are taking SBAs for both day and evening school at the office. So if you're a day school student and you're registered to do a subject in evening school, or you're a straight evening school student, the SBAs must be handed in. And for those students who private candidates who would have registered for the third paper, they would still have to do that third paper.
Or whichever subject, for all the subjects, right, Mrs. Holness? So
yes, if they're not doing the SBA, yeah.
All right, so again, if especially the evening school in particular, once you registered and obviously did not do an SBA, it means that you are going to have two exams to do. You are going to have the paper 1 multiple choice plus the alternative to SBA practical. Yeah. So for the science, that includes a practical exam, right, Mrs. Soles?
Yes, sir, practical.
All right,
It's a lab.
All right. Let me read the question. Let me just mute back the background noise and read. Question, good evening, sir. What will be the procedure for students that would like to go to 6th form for the new school year? Also, the fact that students normally have to have some amount of C6 subjects to move on to 6th form, and the results will be, well, I answered that question. That's question already, right? Next question, will graduation still be held? We want to have graduation in November, end of November, closer to December. It is not unusual for us. I think up to what Mrs. Wallace 4 or 5 years ago, that was when graduation was held. And there were normally good graduation because we knew how well students had done on their final exams. And so we think we will return to it just for this year, right? Somebody asking still if they're wearing uniform. Yes, uniform for classes when we resume, uniform for exams. And the school rules, normal school rules apply, apart from the fact that you'll be allowed to leave school when your classes are finished. Let me just go down to the questions again. Anybody else want to raise their hand while I read some of these questions? Will the students for computer science unit 1 also resume on June 1 for a completion of their IA? I will find out from Mr. Grindley, right, Mrs. Wallace?
Yes, sir.
Let me just.
I think animation and game design too.
Sorry? Animation and game design. Right, animation and game design may have to go up. Maureen Grant has her hand up, and then Lintania. Maureen, can you go ahead? Let me unmute you if you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Wellington.
Good evening.
Yes, I just want to ask the cost of the graduation.
We haven't discussed that because, as I said before, it will be in December. So that has not been discussed yet, right?
Okay, sir.
All right, thanks. Lintania.
Mr. Wellington, how can we not say thank you to our teachers, Mrs. Drummond, Mrs. Foster for lower 6. I must say thank you to them because they're always at class. Sometimes I feel like I'm at school, and I'm just saying thank you to them. They're doing a good job.
You're welcome, my dear. And those, Miss Drummond, you can respond.
You're welcome, Lintania.
Lintania, mommy.
Thank you for that.
Lintania, mommy.
You're welcome, Lintania's mom.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? I noticed somebody complaining that their uniform can't fit. For the last 5 weeks, I've run about 15 5Ks. So you're young and strong, get up out of the house and go run and lose the weight so that the uniform can fit. Don't wait until you're 60, you start get up 5 o'clock in morning time and walk a road because you're bored. That's my response. Right, Mrs. Wallace?
I totally agree with you, sir. They need to tune into Jamaica Moves on TVJ and get moving.
Yes. And we will, you know that we should have a Jamaica Moves club at STETHS. We are going to be using our Instagram page to start our campaign for physical activity amongst our students. So all of you students and parents, you can join us on Instagram. We'll tell you when we'll start. when our teachers, Miss Senior and Mrs. Wellington and Mrs. Alexander, and a couple of others will be leading us through our physical exercises in the evenings. All right, so we are trying to do everything to make sure our students stay not just academically ready, but mentally and physically ready as well. All right.
So Wellington, can I add something here, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Students, when you submit your SBAs, you must have a cover sheet. You must have a bibliography. Anything you present must have a bibliography. Once you source information from somewhere else, you have to acknowledge the source, and you get marks for having a title page. You get marks for that. You get marks for your bibliography. You get marks for everything, cover sheet. So marks are allotted to each part of the SBA. So when you do not add your bibliography to your work, it's obvious that you didn't source any information from you didn't source your information from anywhere, and that cannot be. If you're going to present an SBA, you must have researched the facts. You must have gotten information from somebody, and you must give them credit. So you get 0 for your bibliography, 0 for your title page. Sometimes I think that marks are given away just make a title page and you get marked for it, right? So you must ensure that all components of your SBAs are included when you make your presentation to your students. All right.
All right. Thank you. Questions about costs for sixth form graduation? Will they take pictures before the ceremony? All of those questions we have some time to answer, but we will try. You are a special set of students. You are graduating in a year when whatever is happening now is not likely to happen for another 100 years. So we will make sure that this ends as a memorable year for you, right? So don't worry about the arrangements for graduation. Whatever it is going to be, it is something that you will have as a positive when you look back on 2020. Right, Mrs. Hollis? I have to seek validation from Mrs. Hollis now.
Yes, definitely.
Temperature checks.
Yes.
Temperature checks will be done on all students upon entering the campus. So yes, that in answer to the question raised. Timetables for exams, as was indicated earlier, you will get your timetables via the emails you provided, but we will also have a master timetable that will be sent to us. We have not gotten yet based on the changes that will be necessary because of the change of dates, but we will make that available to you as well. All right, so I think those are the questions. Any other question? I don't know if I missed any question in the chat. If there is any question if there's any question that
somebody's asking, what about the students that live 3 parishes away?
Yes, that's good. Warren, I think that is specifically relating to Warren. Mr. Walcott and I, we are discussing it, so we will talk to you. We'll talk to you about what arrangements will be made for you. All right, Warren? So I've already started the discussion with Mr. Walcott, and we'll put something in place for you. And of course, I'm sure that there are students who don't want to leave STETHS until they have driven in the new bus. So you can't drive in the bus unless you have passed 6 or more subjects.
I agree with that one.
All right. Lintanya again. Go ahead. Lintanya, your hand is up. All right.
I was here just saying the other day about the children don't, like something that they don't have to come back, have a space there or something like.
Right. I was making the point that students need to remember that when you're finished with 5th form, it is not automatic that you go back to 6th form, even if you pass all your subjects, right?
Sir,
because
I'm telling you that I'm praying for Linton. Said our space is there for upper 6th.
Ms. Joman and Mrs. Holness, you know Lintanya well enough to answer the question? or to
Yes,
allay the
sir.
fear?
Yes, sir. She'll
Yes,
definitely
sir.
be back. She's a very
Yes,
good
sir.
student.
If Lintana cannot come back, then no one else can.
All right, so okay. All right, does that make you feel better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? I think we have had a very good meeting so far, an hour and 23 minutes, and we have covered a lot. Any
Mr.
other questions?
Wellington,
Yes.
can I just comment, sir, that I just want to, appeal to the parents again to make sure when they send their students out, they ensure that they are safe. They let them walk with their own hand sanitizers and just remind them of this, of being careful on the road and, being careful at school. They must take the responsibility too to take the necessary precautions to protect themselves. So we want to ensure that when they arrive safely and they get back home safely and do not put themselves in any danger or any unnecessary exposure, no loitering around in the town, and just be purposeful and come to school, do what they have to do, and be safe while they're at school. Remember to practice good hygiene practices, and always be mindful of others around them. Ensure that we're a brother's keeper and be careful of the things that we do at this time. Thank you.
Well said, Mrs. Holness. And on that note, that very sound advice, I want to say thank you very much. If there are no other questions or comments, we will continue to meet in this fashion over the next 2 months until we are satisfied that our kids would have done their exams and would have done their very best on those exams. And while we wait, and then we can go on to wait on their results. So are there any other questions or comments? No other questions or comments? All right, if there's none other, just want to remind you, you can go back and watch the YouTube video just to make sure that you would have covered everything, and you can also encourage the other parent to just go and watch the video or listen to the video so that they are aware of what was discussed. All right, so I really, really want to thank you very, very much. And please remember, we want to work together. Our aim is for every single student to pass every single subject that is sat at STETHS this year. I don't think it is a dream that is too far-fetched. I really don't, right? I really genuinely believe that if the effort is made, not just by the students, but by the teachers and the parents and the principal, if we make the effort to just get our students in the right frame of mind, to get them committed to do what is necessary, I don't think that it is it would be almost a miracle, yes, because there are so many things that can go wrong. But I think that where abilities are concerned and where opportunity is concerned, we must aim to get them to pass all their subjects, right? So let us work on that. And as I said before, next week, a team of us will be going out to visit those students that we are not hearing from. And we want to use that opportunity to get them back on track so that they will be ready. All right, I see a few messages before we leave. Someone from, all right, something about somebody, history SBA, somebody choosing the wrong topic, and an explanation is given by Mr. Adams. But that is a concern. Can the person with as it relates to the SBA for Cape history and not choosing the correct topic for the SBA, could you please please contact myself or Mrs. Holness so that we can find out exactly how that can be rectified. So the number, I'm going to type the number in the message in the chat room that you can call. I'm going to put my personal number as well as the school number that you can call to have that clarified. So the school number and my personal number, and we will see if we can have that sorted out with that SBA. All right. Okay. Thank you, those who have expressed gratitude. I want to thank you very much for showing gratitude. As it is said, gratitude is a must, but at the same time, we know that sometimes persons are not as appreciative as they could be, but we want to assure you that we are doing our very best, and we do it because we want your children to do well, because we genuinely love them. So we want them to do well, even those who we quarrel with or fight with, right? As soon as they leave through the school gate, we are best of friends because we really love them, and they don't hold any grudge against us when they leave. So we want them to do well, and we want them to do well too, because it makes us look good as well. So it is all in our best interest for us to work together. Thank you very much, and have a safe evening. Stay safe, and as soon as we get additional information, including the protocols that we will have in writing, we will have another meeting. So we will at least meet Mrs. Holness before they are asked to return to school on the 8th. Right, Mrs. Holness, would that be okay?
Yes, before they
Before they
come.
return. Yeah, so maybe the weekend before,
Okay.
just to update them on what we have in place and what we expect
Right.
the students to be doing when they return.
Right, that's good.
All right. All right, so thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great night.
Thanks, you too, sir.
All right, good.
Good night, everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Good night, man.
Good night.